morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Well, somebody, and I should remember who, but I don't, said it a long time ago. You can tell a lot about a person by the horse they ride. And that stirs up a lot of things in my mind, like Mark Rashid's book, A Good Horse is Never a Bad Color, and a poem written by Dale Thompson.
Appies, Arabs, even mules I've stepped across their back, and I've never seen one cow that cared when I have jerked my slack.
And you'll hear the rest of that one in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, and on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, a look at some of the hidden issues a horse might be carrying that don't show up until he's put into a pressure situation. And like horses, appearances don't always indicate the qualities a person might have. Baxter Black looks at that today.
Well, I ask, are you an accountant, an architect, or a jewelry store clerk, or do you ever work outside? I'm a hockey player, he said.
On the Rangeland News, lots of number crunching, and it seems as soon as one prediction is made, it's got to be revised.
And an estimated 3% more cattle outside feedlots than a year ago. Forage conditions will likely be an important factor.
When Bob Kaufman built the saddle that I ride almost every day, there was something I really wanted on it. A place to carry a fencing plier, and that has been handier than you could ever imagine, but I might not get away with it in some places.
I've been told by a lot of the Texas cowboys that it was still against the law to carry a pair of fence pliers on your saddle.
That's Pat Hooks, and he's back this week with more insight into cowboy traditions, ranch roping, and today's country music. And speaking of music and good horses, Gene Prescott's got a great one to get things started.
But my youthful lack of patience so often got me through. That same old lack of patience in my horses plainly show. So I sat down at the drawing board he had built throughout the years. His words, though not abrasive, only reinforced my fears. Trust ain't freely given, it's elusive, slowly earned. A man's the mirror image of the things his horses learn. Gentle hands make a good mount, not fear nor fight nor dread. Good men ride good horses, that's all that need be said. With trust, respect soon follows like a wobbly-legged foal. They're both real important if good manners is your goal. His choice of words cut fast and deep just like a surgeon's knife, yet changed my perspective and rearranged my life. Do what's right while you're still living, makes no difference when you're dead. Good men ride good horses, and that's all that need be said. Trust ain't freely given, it's elusive, slowly earned. A man's the mirror image of the things his horses learn. Gentle hands make a good mount, not fear nor fight nor dread. Good men ride good horses, that's all that need be said. If he rebels from disrespect, he's trying hard to say, let me spur you in the shoulder and see how long that you will stay. But given half a chance, he'll rise up to the task and die 1,000 mournful deaths just doing what you ask. So ask yourself this question of this noble gallant steed: would you do the very same for him if asked a fearful deed? Trust ain't freely given, it's elusive, slowly earned. A man's the mirror image of the things his horses learn. Gentle hands make a good mount, not fear nor fight nor dread. Good men ride good horses, that's all that need be said. At his service just this morning, a tear fell as they read. He always rode good horses, that's all that need be said.
Well, last week you heard Patrick Hooks, the cowboy buckaroo from Texahoma, talk about a lot of interesting things, and we just touched on the subject of ranch roping.
My roping deal, a person would have probably paid to cut my rope up. Matter of fact, a buddy of mine, Bill Black, one time threatened to cut my rope up. And he said, if you don't learn how to rope, I'm going to cut your rope. And I knew he was telling me the truth. But even on the roping deal, Hugh, I remember like when we was up at the Mesa Ranch, and old Kenton and Leon Apple, they helped me quite a bit with my roping. I had another friend by the name of Steve Gator to help me. Now, these were team ropers, bona fide team ropers. And, that just, I can get that done. I love to heel, but that wasn't what I wanted to do for fun, if that makes sense. And I'll never forget how embarrassed I was, one of the first Brandons I ever really rolled in on. And I promised myself after that, I said, I'm going to learn how to rope. And because the truth of the matter was, if you wasn't dragging 2 feet to the fire, you got asked to leave after you missed about 2 or 3 times, they could tell, and you got back on the ground crew. And very long story short, that one spring and fall, we branded just a little bit over 11,000 head of cattle. And by that year, not only could I was a hand in the branding pen, I really didn't care if I ever seen another calf in the branding pen. No,
it was fun for the first 1,000 or so.
Yeah, and it's great on your horses. And after a while, I got a snubbing horse by the name of Cutter, and Cutter's on full automatic. You didn't even have to pick up your reins. You could walk in and throw your drive-by or flank shot and get 2 feet. As quick as he seen the rope released, he had already turned and gone towards the fire. And he was great for people to learn on that want to learn how to rope. But with that being said, I got a slogan I use. Our Arizona cowboy taught me this, and I kind of stole it, truth of the matter. And it's there's one bit that works on all horses, a bit of knowledge. And that's the same way with the roping deal. And finally on the roping, I quit beating myself up. And I kind of looked at it like, I wouldn't take a 9-pound sledge and build a set of cabinets with it. I need a finishing hammer. I need a sledgehammer. If I'm going to frame, I need a framing hammer. And no different than welding rods. You need different welding rods to do different jobs. And that's the way it turned out to be, this roping. And a lot of these ropers were so hung up in what they were doing. It's like what you said, about the rubber. I got to have rubber, but they didn't understand about the slip and clutch on the dally horn. Or they didn't understand why a man was using a 60-foot riata rather than a 30-foot nylon.
And next, Pat explains how when it comes to roping, one size does not fit all. And a song from a cowboy singer we don't hear enough of, When the Spirit of the West, continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. As Yogi Berra once said, you can observe a lot just by watching. And over the years, I've been interested in ranch roping and always admired my friends who use a soft 60-foot riata and a slick horn. Even in the branding pen, they make it an art form. I've never gotten to that point. I use my 35-foot nylon with rubber on the horn, and I can get by with it. But Patrick Hooks is an expert with both styles.
When I face the fact, like, for example, the branding pin, the best rope of my choice, if we're just heeling 2 legs and dragging to the fire, the rope of my choice is a wore-out heading rope. If I can find a header that wore rope out that he don't want anymore, I learned for me it will stand up just right for me to throw a heel trap, and I can come on and I can catch me 2 feet. Now, if we're going to go back to tradition where there's a guy heading, and then I'm going to throw over any kind of behind the hip or over the hip trap shot, Well, then I either want a sure enough Rieta, rawhide Rieta, or I want a poly, probably about a 9.5 poly with a metal Hondu. Then that way when I pull back on my spoke, I can get that tip to drag through. And I can make those probably what you'd actually call low percentage heel shots. And once I learned that and accepted that and learned that, hey, these are really two different deals, two different jobs, two different ropes, and accepted that fact and said, you know, just like, hey, there's one bit that works on all horses, a bit of knowledge. When I applied that wisdom to the roping, then it become easier for me. So I'd pass that on to folks. You know, quit beating one another up and just go have some fun.
Yeah, right. Well, when we had this visit, it was at the Red Deer main event of the Westerner a while back, where we would take Lucky the Wonder Horse out there with us, and I was riding her around before the event started when Pat and I got together, and he noticed something on my saddle, and we'll talk about it after a cowboy singer we don't hear enough of. Here's Alan Christie.
It's a foot in the stirrup, handful of rein, bind in the saddle, spurs in the mane. Llewellyn is yelling as he rides in again, and I thought it would never end. Wainwright, Alberta, a long time ago, Jim Kelts and Bobby Dimmer, all they were putting on a show. That saddle bronc transport was a cowboy's best friend, and they thought that it would never end. Thought it would never end. This mind takes him back to the places that he'd been. An old bronc saddle and a few thousand friends, and they thought that it would never end. That handhill's dirt still sticks to you like glue. Mel Highland's old Hamlet, well, that thing rode a bronc or two. Trapper land his plane in a farmer's field again, and he thought it would never end. Pulling a saddle, standing on the chute gate, ain't a whole lot different than it was in 78. They hang around and they help out when they can, but they thought that it would never end. Thought it would never end. His mind takes him back to the places that he's been. An old bronc saddle and a few thousand friends, and they thought that it would never end. They thought it would never end.
Oh, yeah. One of the first times I met Alan Christie was at the Ivan Danes Country Music Picnic, long time ago now. I was there all by myself. Didn't have my band with me, and I was really fortunate to have the Alan Christie Band backing me up at that time, and we have crossed trails many times since then, and well, I love all the names that come up there from so many of those great rodeo bronc riders. Mel Highland still going strong, and of course Ivan Danes and Sam Kelts, and makes you think of so many others Boy, it'd be so neat when the rodeos get going again. Well, now, let's get back to the visit with Patrick Hooks.
You pointed out something else that brings up an interesting point when you spotted the fencing pliers on the back billet of my back cinch there.
Yeah, I've been told for several years now. We live in the panhandle of Oklahoma, and our town, Texahoma, half the town's in Texas and half the town's in Oklahoma. So, long story short, I've been told by a lot of the Texas cowboys that it was still against the law to carry a pair of fence pliers on your saddle. And I've heard a lot of old traditions like that. A lot of those old blue state laws were still in effect. And there's still a lot of funny homestead laws and those kind of things that are still applicable today, like in Oklahoma. Like I think, say for example, if a man pulls a plug and goes financially broke, he can only keep 2 saddles.
Really?
And so there's all kinds of old tradition like that are still law down there.
As far as I understand it up here, every place I've rode in this part of the country, it's perfectly legal to carry an exposed set of fencing pliers on your saddle, but you can't pack a gun on your belt. You can't pack, I don't think you can pack a handgun without a whole bunch of paperwork and permits or anything else.
Well, now in our country, there's still plenty of plenty of guns around.
You can pack a gun, but you can't pack a fencing pliers.
Yeah, there you go. And I don't quote me on this, but just for fun conversation, we'd need a Philadelphia lawyer to figure it out anyway. But there's some of them old laws down in there, like you can buy the skillet to cook the meat on Sunday, but you can't buy the meat, or vice versa, whichever way that is. And there's a tremendous amount of old cattle and ranch history down in that country. Naturally, like the wife had drove the school bus to take the kids. She works on the Texas side school, to elementary school, and they went down the canyon to the museum down there, Canyon, Texas, and Charlie Goodnight's old Sharps rifles hanging up in there. And if I'm not badly mistaken, check me out on this, Old Blue, the old lead steer, he's stuffed somewhere. I think he's hanging on the wall somewhere in Amarillo, Texas.
I think that could be, yeah.
I would call the name of the restaurant, but I'm not sure on that, so I won't pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, we know a few people in Amarillo and have spent some time there, and it seems to me I did hear that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's like your show. That old history and those things, that's just really neat, and we just don't need to let this die.
Well, Baxter Black went shopping with his wife Cindy Lou, and they were of all places in a jewelry store. Not exactly where a cowboy feels comfortable. And he'll have the story when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at ring buying.
Your land is a legacy, a challenge from those who tended it before you to build on their foundations. At Corteva AgriScience, we understand what it means to be the stewards of a legacy. We embrace the challenge of building on the foundation of Dow AgroSciences to maintain your trust, to bring new solutions, to help you care for your land. See how we can help build your legacy at rangeandpasture.com.
And for our Canadian listeners, just check Corteva.ca, the Canadian website.
We were making the rounds of jewelry stores in search of an anniversary ring for my wife. Now, mall jewelry store employees dress a little snappier than the average supermarket clerk. Some even tend to the odd, avant-garde, or punctilious. I assume this is where Elton John started. And a piercing is not uncommon on them, but it's always tasteful. You never see a salesperson with a javelin through his eyebrow or a piece of turquoise the size of a road apple stuck to her nose. Usually the only tattoos you'll notice are discreet flowers or sunrises or honk if you love Britney on the small of their backs when they squat down. Suffice it to say, it's not a place where a cowboy is right at home. As I was muttering non-specific comments to queries like, "Do you like this one?" or "Isn't this perfect?" or "Do you prefer the 2-carat flawless marquee in white gold?" or this throwaway 1/10 of a carat round cut with visible bubble and fragment of coal mounted in a copper band that turns your finger green? Bite your tongue. Well, a young customer came up to me and he asked, "Do you think this looks feminine?" He was a robust young man with pink cheeks, the kind of hair that only gets combed when you go to town, and wearing his best pair of work boots. And the ring looked quite dainty on his big hand. It had 3 diamonds and lots of curly-Q engraving. Well, I asked, "Do you ever plan to wear it?" And his mother eyed me. "I'm getting married," he said. Well, I asked, "Are you an accountant, an architect, or a jewelry store clerk, or do you ever work outside?" "I'm a hockey player," he said. I said, "Well, you need a ring that comes off easy." I showed him my knuckles, because you don't want to be hanging that ring on a ladder, barbed wire, table saw, or the goalie's front teeth. I suggested he get something wide without sharp edges, no stones and nothing sticking up, and wear it only when he wasn't going to be changing the fan belt, cutting grain, or pushing pucks. "Can I see yours?" he asked. I showed him. "Do you like it?" I said, "Well, I'm not wearing it for me." This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by Corteva Agri-Science.
Now, just ahead of the rangeland news, Charlie Ewing has ridden in the Porcupine Hills since he was old enough to climb on a horse. And his place sits in the shadow of a big hill that's known as the Skimmer Horn. And he wrote a song about it for his latest CD. He calls it the Skimmer Horn Walk.
As the moon rises high up in the eastern sky, and the howitzers flash in the night, I think of you there and the sweet smell of your hair as we danced to the Skimmer Horn waltz. And that very same moon will be rising for you soon on our Alberta home across the sea. And I think of you, dear, what you whispered in my ear as the band played the Skimmer Horn waltz. And as the violins play, I can still feel you sway as the tune drifts away on the breeze. You danced in my arms, so far away from harm, and the band played the Skimmer Horn waltz. Plains in the cold Belgian rain, on a battlefield strewn with despair. And I think of you now, and how you whispered your vow as the band played the Skimmer Horn waltz. And as the violins play, I can still feel you sway as the tune drifts away on the breeze. You swore you'd be true till I come home to you. The band played the Skimmer Horn waltz. You danced in my arms, so far away from harm, and the band played the skimmer on logs.
The Rangeland News from the Spirit of the West, a roundup of issues and events from the world of agriculture.
At the top of page 1, it says, as the lineup of finished or over-finished cattle continues to get longer, pasture and range conditions across the West will become a pretty crucial factor as we move into summer. And with more, here's Gary Crawford.
The pace of cattle slaughter slower than normal and an estimated 3% more cattle outside feedlots than a year ago. Forage conditions will likely be an important factor in the timing of when cattle do go into feedlots. So how are pastures faring across the country? USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey told us that as we started this week,
we have roughly half, or 51%, of pasture and rangeland rated good to excellent. Nationally, just 16% very poor to poor.
Pastures in good shape most places, though.
Especially across the north, the Midwest, the Southeast, and even into the Northeast.
Pastures not rated in such good shape?
From Oregon and California eastward through the southern plains.
California reporting 40% of its pastures in poor to very poor condition.
Part of that is drought. Part of that is seasonal drying that we see every year.
Other states reporting at least a third of their pastures in bad shape: Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
The National Farm Animal Care Council says it's reassessing timelines for each of the codes being updated, including those for dairy cattle, livestock, transport, goat, and farmed salmons. It says public comment periods, which are held for each of the codes, may be delayed by as much as a few months in some cases. Groups asked to work on animal codes of practice have postponed, canceled, or rescheduled meetings as online events, according to the National Farm Animal Care Council. The Transportation Code was scheduled to be ready for public comment on April 2022 and finished by spring 2023, but those timelines might be altered. And the 23-member Code Development Committee includes livestock and poultry transporters, researchers, processors, and individuals representing animal welfare advocacy and enforcement, livestock markets, veterinarians, and the federal government. And with in-person meetings no longer an option, a series of online meetings is planned to continue development of that code. I haven't found too much information about livestock production and the spread of the virus, but I did find this. In response to recent claims that livestock production has played a role in the spread of COVID-19, leading academics from 4 continents joined U.S., Canadian, and international organizations representing farmers to sign an open letter that set the record straight. The signatories, including the Animal Agriculture Alliance, the World Veterinary Association, and the International Livestock Research Institute, clarified that domestic livestock production is safe and has not played a role in the spread of COVID-19. It says globally 1.3 billion people depend on livestock for their employment, where billions more rely on livestock to provide food for their families. Animal agriculture provides milk, meat, fish, and eggs at a time when access to safe, nutritious, and affordable food is necessary to fend off potential global hunger crisis, and offers invaluable support for farmers facing severe, often existential economic hardships. Well, Saskatchewan's agriculture community has had to cancel a lot of farming exhibitions and fairs because of the pandemic, but Canadian Western Agribition is still making plans to hold its 50th exhibition in November. Chris Lane, the CEO of Agribition, said the organization has time on its side as its event at Irvaz Place in Regina isn't scheduled until November. And other farming exhibitions like the Western Farm Progress Show, which was set to run in June, and the Prairieland Junior Ag Showcase, which is also set for July, are postponed until 2021. And the last I heard, Farm Fair International at Northlands is still hoping to be able to go ahead. The next regular cattle sale at the BC Livestock Co-op Yards in Kamloops is June 23rd, at the Vanderhoof Yards on July the 9th. It's the sheep and goat sale. Another regular sale in Kamloops July 14th, and one in Vanderhoof on July 17th. You can get all the information and watch the sales live at bclivestock.bce.ca. Meanwhile, at the Innisfail auction market, regular cattle sales every Wednesday, and there have been some good special sales, too. Get all the information at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com or give Mark, Dwayne, or Danny a call, 1-800-710-3166. Okay, we're down to the final item. And after our drive-in cowboy church, I wandered down to visit at a safe distance with some of the folks inside their vehicles. And one lady rolled down the passenger window, and I saw that her husband seemed to be sound asleep in the driver's seat. And I said, "Hey, I'm glad you came. Would you mind waking your husband up so I can say howdy?" And she said, "Well, why don't you wake him up? You put him to sleep." And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, a look at some issues that a new horse might be hiding and how to deal with them, and another real Western song that I think you'll like, along with more from Patrick Hooks when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. I'll take you through an episode where a horse I thought looked pretty good showed some issues that kind of surprised me when I got him home. Coming right up on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File. First, though. Okay, here's an update on the next Spirit of the West cruise, and as you have probably heard, we are making some changes. We have postponed what Billy and I are calling our Farewell Spirit of the West cruise until June of 2021. Okay, Big Rig, a little banjo music, please. We still expect to have just about everything we had planned for this year in place for next year, and Jim and Karen have said, if you'd like to come, then your deposits will be held until then. We're already making plans and preparations for having the whole group start things off June 17th, 2021 with a visit to the McLennan Ranch and a concert with the Western Spirit Band. We'll have coaches to take you all from our place up the beautiful Sun Peaks for a wonderful alpine experience, and then we all head down to Vancouver. A night in the spectacular Fairmont Waterfront Hotel. Something really special planned for the next morning, and then we board Holland America's Conningsdam for a 7-day cruise up the Inside Passage to Alaska. And there'll be a lot of extra events for our group, including the famous White Pass Rail Tour. For everybody currently booked, there will be complimentary drink packages, complimentary specialty dining for one night, and shipboard gratuities will be paid for each guest. And this is available as well for everyone who books before the end of June this year. We would like to thank all of you who are planning on joining us in July and hope that you can adjust the dates and join us in 2021. We'll keep you informed with the details as they come, and as always, Megan, Jim, and Karen can give you lots of information. 1-800-530-0131.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Saddle up for spring with a little help from Irvine Tack and Western Wear. Exciting news, folks. My friends at Irvine's tell me they're back to regular store hours, 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, Sundays 10 till 7. And whoa, Nelly, you should see all the new spring arrivals. The biggest names in Western wear: jeans, jackets, boots, hats, belts, shirts, and more. They've got it all, so hurry in today. Look and feel your very best in the latest for spring from Irvine Tack and Western Wear. Exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield.
Canada's largest Western store.
And you know, it's a lot of fun shopping online. Just go to urbansaddles.ca. Sometimes there can be hidden issues. Guy bought a horse at a recent auction. When the horse came through the ring, he looked great. Nice rein on him and ridden by a pretty confident-looking cowboy. He sure looked broke at the sale, the guy told me. Well, he picked up this gelding, about 6 years old the next day. He loaded easily into the trailer, and he just couldn't wait to ride him. Well, he tied him to the trailer, and he brushed him, and then he saddled him from the left side. Well, when he went to put the bridle on with a snaffle bit, the horse raised his head way up in the air and kept his mouth clamped shut. Luckily, this guy was careful. It took lots of time and finally got the horse to accept the bit. And he led him around for a few steps, and then he got on, and the horse seemed fine.
He rode him around the arena. He got off and opened the gate, got back on, and when he tried to ride him out the gate, the horse stopped right between the gate posts and refused to go through, so he pressured him with his legs and clucked to him, and the horse reared up, came down, and tried to buck. Whoa! Now, the rider managed to use lateral flexion, bend his neck, disengage his hindquarters, the horse's that is, and he got him under control, but boy, he was surprised, and his heart rate had gone way up. And then he followed my advice, and he got a gentle, well-broke ranch horse, saddled him up, and led the new horse around the arena from the well-broke horse for about 3 circles, and then rode through the gate, and the new horse followed easily. So then he put his wife on the gentle horse, and he got back on the new horse, and they rode through the gate. No problem. And he rode the new horse back and forth through the gate several times. Now, we can't be sure, but it seemed like maybe that new horse had been in some kind of a wreck going through a gate, and he may have thought that there was an electric wire across it or something. Who knows? Oh, yeah, the next day, he went to ride the new horse. He tied him to the tie ring on the trailer, and he saddled him from the right side. He got the blanket on okay, he set the saddle on his back, and then as he started to walk around behind the horse to his left side to do up the latigos, the horse suddenly pulled back hard, and when he hit the end of the halter shank, he stopped, and the saddle slid off over his butt, and he did his best to try and kick it to pieces. So even though he might look well broke with a good rider on his back, there can be any number of hidden issues to watch out for.
And for urban saddles and western wear, that's the horse training file. Boy, our horses look forward to that daily feeding of Hoffman's horse ration. As soon as I come out the barn door with it, they're waiting for it, and it's got them looking really, really good. You can find out what's in it and how it works at hoffmanshorseration.com. And one more installment's coming up from Patrick Hooks, and he'll talk about more than horses and cattle. He's a pretty good singer and picker, and we'll talk about musicians. Right now, though, here's a talented guy from New Mexico with a great group, Sid Masters and the Swing Riders, and a song that has a neat story.
Alone he sat upon his throne. 'Twas a bench carved from an old log. In his hands he played an ancient guitar that looked older than his wrinkles and his prose. It sounded as if it hadn't been tuned since 1874. The A strings are missing, there's a crack in the neck, just like the sound in his voice. I sat down beside him and listened for a while as he sang way out of tune about grazing the open range, big cattle drives, riding herd neath the whispering moon. I had to help him with a lot of the words that he learned so long ago. Heck, this old cowpoke has already forgotten more than I'll ever know. How I wish I was there when they bring in the herd, drank right, and history was declared. How I wish I was there. Then maybe I could sing cow songs like him. With a nod of his head and a tip of the bottle, he told why he sings the old songs. Seems all of his saddle parts have gone to ride ranges on ponies of ghostly white clouds. He likes to pretend that he's sitting round the cook fire singing ballads while the boys deal a game. tear in his eye made me realize I'll never sing cow songs the same. How I wish I was there when they bring in the herd, drank rye, and history was declared. How I wish I was there, 'cause then maybe I could sing cow songs like him.
Hugh McLennan and the Great Western Spirit Band, along with Tom Cole and friends, will be at the Lido Theater in Fort St. John, BC for 2 shows. The crisp, clean music of the West, great guitar picking, spellbinding stories, and lots of laughs.
Where the sky goes on forever, where those prairie winds blows the cold and hard.
Tickets available online at thelido.ca or call 1-250-785-3011. Or you can go to the Lido in person on 100th Avenue in Fort St. John.
Dream riding, dreaming my troubles away. And to everyone who purchased tickets for Concert 83, scheduled originally for May 22nd and 23rd, thank you so much. Now, this probably isn't any surprise, but of course it has had to be rescheduled for September the 18th and 19th, one show each evening at 7 o'clock. You can have your tickets refunded, or you can keep them and have a head start on seating for September. You can call the Lido at 250-785-3011. Looking forward to seeing you in September. Sure, looking forward to hooking up with those guys again, and that's the same group that has been kind of a social media sensation on YouTube and Facebook with their Homebound concert series being posted every Sunday evening, and they are good, no question about it. Well, there was a neat moment at the Trainers Challenge at the Red Deer main event a while back. Mel Highland, Doug Mills, and Patrick Hooks were the trainers, and it was really entertaining, as always. Doug Mills brought the crowd to its feet in his final that put his score over the top. Mel Highland was amazing, and for Patrick Hooks' final, he borrowed my guitar, and he sang a beautiful song to his colt. And that kind of leads into this.
We were talking just a little bit about some of the music in your life early on, and of course Kentucky and the bluegrass state and bluegrass music. You're telling me that you actually played bluegrass for quite a number of years.
Yes, we did. Had a group by the name of Kentucky Blues, and we traveled around. That was in, would have been in the very early 80s. And I had the pleasure of playing with some folks on stage, is what I mean by playing with. And our group, would either open for them and was just proud and honored to be with them. And then sometimes at the Bluegrass Festivals, they have like open stage jam session. And just to have been on stage with some of the likes like Bill Monroe or Ralph Stanley or Flatten Scruggs and those type of folks, those are good memories, And my goodness, there was a group of musicians that come up in that era that went on to Nashville that done real well. Ricky Skaggs, Keith Whitley, those fellows done extremely well. And I can go back at Lexington, Kentucky, was what they called the Festival of the Bluegrass. And we played there, and we were a very young band there. And of all people, they had Riders of the Sky there that year, and got to play with them some, and that was a great honor. And I tell you what, now them boys can pick, and that harmony they have is just unbelievable.
And they've got tremendous sense of humor, and they will have the people just rolling in the aisles with their humor and with the stunts they pull. But they are very serious about the traditions of the music of the West. They're knowledgeable. They know the history of these songs, and they have a passion to carry it on, just like we're talking about carrying on the values of cowboy life.
Yes, sir. Hey, you know something else I've noticed that maybe it's been middle age, maybe it's I don't quite know what it is, but I guess I'll shoot you back a question. If you notice, it seems like once a fella reaches a certain point, call it a career if you want, call him a cowboy, if a cowboy has a career, I don't know, or even a musician. Those are almost two labors of love. And but it seems like once they reach a point to where they're good and there's no points to prove, man, they're a high class of people. They're a hard act to follow. They're just simply classy people.
Yeah. They have a comfort level with what they do, and somehow that takes the focus off the anxiety of, boy, I hope this audience is going to like me, or I hope we impress these people. That's all gone. They love what they do, they're comfortable with it, and they're happy to share it. Yeah. They realize, I think, Patrick, that they have a gift, maybe, that they've been given by the Creator, and they've been able to develop that gift, and they've honored that gift, and they're happy to share it. I think maybe it's part of it. Well, Patrick, that's a real positive note to maybe kind of wrap this up on, but I want to thank you so much for just sitting down and visiting. I enjoy talking about this kind of stuff so much. And
yes, sir. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate it, Patrick.
And Patrick referred to Riders in the Sky. You'll hear them along with Marty Stewart with this week's classic song of the West, and then Dale Stewart, and no relation to Marty as far as I know, in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. I'm glad you came back. For our classic song of the West today, we have a Bob Nolan favorite done by Marty Stewart and Riders in the Sky.
How long for a trip, don't need no grip, I'm taking one more ride. Way out there in the prairie air, I guess it's in my hide. The clickety-clack of the railroad track is calling.
There's a man that knows where the Santa Fe goes when she gets under steam. And a big loud bell that's a fond farewell, hear her whistle scream. She's bound to go where there ain't no snow a-falling.
One more ride.
One more ride. How I miss the gloom of the pale white moon that seemed to know my name.
And the tumbleweeds where the prairie dogs feed, I miss them just the same.
They're all a part of the song in my heart I'm singing. I recall the tune I sang to the moon, it seemed to make him smile. As I rode away at the close of day and I stayed so long a while.
But I long to be with the memories bringing one more ride.
One more ride.
Give this man a hat. Hey, Marty, got something on your mind? As years roll by, I wonder why I long to leave my home and to hit the trail of the iron rail way out there alone. But my heart will sigh and know that I am leaving.
If I don't come back, there's a one-way track way down in Mexico. You'll find me there or any old where the tumbleweed will grow. So it's goodbye now, you'll never know how I'm grieving.
One more ride.
One more ride.
Oh, you're a little song, boy.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Now, here's Dale Stewart reflecting on good horses in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight.
Walk or ride. The only horse I'll ever ride will be a quarter horse. To me, that way of thinking is a little bit off course. The man who stated that is completely buckaroo. But what would he be riding before a quarter horse was new? Me, I'm from a different school. You ride just what you're handed. How good the breed of horse was depended where you landed. Appies, Arabs, even mules, I've stepped across their back, and I've never seen one cow that cared when I have jerked my slack. There never was a calf concerned when bogged down in the mire, or one that worried about color or breed with his butt dragged to the fire. Or your rope horse has wrecked a shoulder trying to stretch a snotty bull, but there's an Arab that can do the job even if he is a cull. When you're way back in the mountains and your quarter horse comes up lame, the pack mule you are using never made the Hall of Fame, but his back will hold a saddle and keep your feet off of the ground and get you back across the river when your choice is that or drown. Or when you have a full-time riding job but you're way down in your luck, and the only cayuse available is out of Saskatchewan by truck. It's been my way of thinking, and I guess I'm one to talk, but I've always thought an ugly ride sure beat a handsome walk.
Well, thanks again for making the ride this week, and special thanks to all of you who sponsored this old cowboy for the kidney walk and ride. You can still see it on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. As always, thanks to our great support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. See Mark's page, bctractorparts.com, for all your parts needs. Running late, gotta go. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.